What's going on, guys? Welcome back to another episode of the Stay Strong, Stay You podcast. So what's going on, Monica?
What up, what up, what up?
I am excited for today's episode. This is something that I think a lot of people talk about. I know it's something you and I have been frequently talking about. And I think it's just going to be an overall good conversation about owning your true and authentic self and taking off the mask. So
yeah, I mean, it's definitely going to be fun because we've all done it. And I think that's the one thing is that people are going to have a hard time accepting that they're wearing a mask because in their minds they believe that they're not. But hopefully after today, we can give them something to think about, and they can learn something from this.
absolutely. All right. So let's dive in. We broke it down into five different things that, we think that people wear masks. And the first one is hiding and protecting our emotions. And, when I think of this one, I really think about how throughout the pandemic, we were all wearing masks and you couldn't see if somebody was smiling or their facial expressions below their eyes. And that is a huge way in which we communicate without verbal cues. And right there, I think that was an eye-opener for a lot of people, yet that was happening before the pandemic, because I personally know I had a mask on for far too long. And it's still happening today. It's still an ongoing thing of people putting on a mask to hide the pain, to hide the struggle. They're smiling for the camera, but they're dying behind the scenes. And you're afraid to speak up. You don't want to take off this mask because you're afraid of the judgment. You're afraid of what people are going to say. You think people are going to think of you different. The world's going to turn their back on you or whatever it may be. And I know this because I've been there. And when you recognize that you can take off that mask and you can share your true, authentic emotions, it is like a weight has been lifted off your shoulders. And it can be challenging to, at times, figure out who to take your mask off with, because I know for me personally, I have struggled with trust. I think we have all struggled with trust. Yet I think the more that you can lead with trust, with the understanding that you can always take that trust back, and surrounding yourself around people in which you trust, it allows you to almost live life in a way with not having to wear a mask at all, and knowing that you can just be your real, raw, authentic self and just share your emotions, share what you're going through, and people can see that, because people can sniff out when you're being fake and saying I'm okay or I'm fine. And we all know, if you know me, you know my biggest pet peeve, when I can sniff out that somebody is saying that they are fine. You want to go down the route of fine with me? And this became from my own personal experience of living in my friend's house, who we were not allowed to say the word fine. And this is why, it was because it was that mask. You were saying I'm fine when really you're feeling effed up, insecure, neurotic, and emotional. It's a mask of saying, I don't want to talk about it. I don't want to talk about it. And what happened with me was I had to recognize that I was wearing that mask of I'm fine. Yet the rule that came along with not saying I'm fine, we weren't allowed to say that. If we said that, we had to then sit there with my friend's mom, my good friend Nicole, and we had to open up to her. We had to let her know what was going on inside our mind. And eventually, throughout time, as I began to recognize, every time I say I'm fine, I'm really hiding something. And it really began to open my eyes of it's so much easier just to share what's going on than to put on this mask, because it's tiring and exhausting carrying around weight that needs to be released. Because
Yeah.
the more that we continue to carry, the heavier it's going to become. And the more that it increases, the more stress we're going to be carrying. So you need to find a release system in which you can release the pain and the struggle and just take off the mask.
Yeah, you're absolutely right, Becca. So, of course, you just kind of explained the whole first reason. And me, what I was thinking the whole time, and I was like, man, I remember that one time, and man, I remember that other time, and man, all the different times where I wore the mask. And I remember it was like almost a year straight where I would wake up, I'd get in the shower, and that'd be like my place to cry. So I'd cry in the shower, get out of the shower, and it was like, okay, no more crying. Like no one can see me cry. No one knows that I'm crying. So no one knows that I'm hurting. No one knows that I'm in pain. I'm gonna act like everything's okay. And my thing wasn't the I'm fine. It was the I'm good. You know,
Mm,
how are you? I'm good. I'm good, when deep down I really wasn't. And that's why, even on one of our other podcast episodes, I mentioned what, my I am not statement. My I am not statement is I'm not going to internalize any of my feelings anymore. And that is why it's so important, because I don't want to hide behind a mask. Like I am still a person. When I shared with somebody one time about kind of going through the same thing that they were experiencing at the time. I remember them looking at me like, "You for real?" And I was like, "What do you mean?" And they were like, "Well, I mean, you're just always so happy." And I'm like, "No, I'm still a human being. Like just because I don't come in here and vent or share my issues or share my problems, like that doesn't mean I'm not going through something." And what I realized is exactly what you said, that the moment that I actually started to share and get help and have the strength to be able to give my pain a voice, it's like layers, you know what I mean? It all just starts coming off, and the stress and the pressure that is on your shoulders just starts coming off, and you're no longer being weighted down by the pain or the things that you're currently experiencing. And the funny part is a lot of people think that, if you share your emotions, like you're the only one that's going through it. You're not the only one that's going through it. If I've learned anything throughout my entire experience and going through my healing and my transformation, is that when I share, the other person who's receiving my share is going through the exact same thing I was going through.
exactly. And one thing that you mentioned too that kind of hit home for me was you have to be emotionally smart. And that's something that I am recognizing within my journey is, you know, you I don't want to live a life in which I'm always wearing a mask, but I know there's situations in which I may have to put on a mask to be professional or to show up to something that I don't necessarily want to, and I can't act like I don't want to be there. So there are times in which, I recognize I have to put on a mask to get through X, Y, and Z situations. Or for me, it's like, at times there's not going I know like it's a tough balance to play, but like I always want to lead in a way in which I can let people know how I'm doing, and I don't want to use that, like you said, that I'm good if I'm really not.
Hmm.
And sometimes it's a balance of figuring out like how much do you let people in, how much do you not let people in. Yet I think you can always lead with like it's not the greatest day. It's like you don't have to give the whole entire sob story, because not everybody wants to hear it, to be real honest. um, but I think there are times in which we all still continue to put on masks, and you know, it is hard when you have to recognize you have to do that. Like, sometimes I'm putting on a mask to pump myself up. Like there's a party mask, I feel like, that like I really don't want to go to the gym, but you know what? I'm gonna put on this mask. Like I am so pumped to go to the gym and I'm excited to be there. Am I? No. But
No.
I'm getting myself like pumped up, but then I'm removing that mask as soon as I like match the energy to the mask, if that makes any sense. But
It does, it does. And you know, one of the things that I thought of while you were speaking was when we start figuring out our own emotions and what we share and those kind of things, like you're going to go through growing pains. Like it doesn't happen automatically. The minute you start sharing, people are going to be receptive and understanding and all of those kind of things. Like you're going to experience growing pains in how much information you give, and actually being able to explain what you're feeling. It gets easier the more you do it. This is all like, you know, practice. And of course, how much you actually focus on making sure that you're talking about your issues and those kind of things and focusing on your growth is how fast it'll happen. Everybody, you know, it happens at different speeds for everyone. So that's definitely one of the things that I wanted to just point out there is the growing pains. Now, another thing that you mentioned was, you know, having to put on the mask to, depending on the situation that you're in, whether it's a professional situation and those kind of things. I also want to just remind everyone that even in the times where you have to put on the mask, and especially in those most professional times, is that you still cannot allow for someone to disrespect you or take advantage of you. You still have to speak up for yourself in those moments. And that's one of the biggest things is a lot of times we keep our mouths shut because we don't want to offend or, you know, point out that someone else is wrong. It's okay, you know, to point out, just if you're open to correction, then you definitely have to be one to give correction as well.
absolutely. And that's where it comes back to, you have to know your boundaries and the standards and the principles that you live by within your life and hold your ground, even if you are having to wear that mask. But just be emotionally smart about it. Don't act like you're all good if you're not all good.
Mhm.
It's okay not to be okay. It's okay to be off balance. It's okay to feel like you're trying to figure it out. Nobody was handed a freaking manual to life. Like we all just have seasons in which we just go through experiencing a lot of different emotions. And there's also times when we experience a lot of different happiness. So I think we could go on just number one for a while.
I want to add one more thing to the whole thing about emotions, just because, you know, we can go on for hours about this, but all when you talk about that emotional smartness, um, it's responding without the emotion, you know, because you're going to be in situations where you get angry, but you cannot respond with your anger. Like you can't make decisions based off of your emotion. You have to be able to understand that what you're going to do or respond to is not coming from a place of whatever emotion you're currently experiencing. And that right there, it is a very difficult task to do because you almost have to check yourself before you actually speak. So for those people who tend to not think before they speak, this is all part of that growth in the emotional smartness, in understanding your emotion and how you respond.
I absolutely love that. And yesterday I went through that, of going through a difficult situation where in some ways I wanted to respond off of my emotions, but we always go back to facts over feelings. So anybody out there who is trying to build that facts over feelings ritual, one thing I caught myself doing was, before I went in to see said person in my life, I actually sat down and wrote out the facts of what had happened and didn't even write about my emotions. And it allowed me to see everything in a different perspective. That didn't take away my emotions in which I felt, but it was able to put things in perspective. And then I was able to lead with in more of a confident way about the situation, and it went beautifully. Doesn't always go as planned, but that's one way I feel like you can kind of take steps in figuring out what are the facts of the situation, what are the emotions, and separate them. You can put them in 2 columns, but definitely journal it out, or do what you ever got to do to become emotionally smart and take off that mask.
Mm-hmm.
Do you want to take us into number 2?
Yeah, another reason why people tend to wear the mask is because they want to fit in. And we talked about this before we went live and started talking about the different things. And a lot of times we want to be perceived as though we're someone that we're not. And I think a big part of that is because of social media. So social media tends to portray people in different ways, whether it be with their achievements, their accomplishments, their money, their cars, their houses. And people say, well, you know what, I want the same things. And so I'm going to act like that's what I got. I'm going to act like that's how I'm living. I'm going to act like I am financially stable, when in reality, you're not. And you're experiencing a financial turmoil and acting like it's all okay, when in reality, you can't even put food on the table. And that's hard. It's hard. If you've never been in that situation, call yourself blessed, because when you got to act like you're being responsible enough to be able to feed your children and you're not even eating yourself, it's hard to try to show a smile and cover that up. Those are emotions that, of course, I'm going to tell you, it built strength for me. I went to school full time. I worked multiple jobs, and I was a single mom. And there were days where I had to make sure that my daughter was fed and I wasn't eating, because I needed to make sure that there was enough food for her, sacrificing, myself. And so, and again, I learned from those situations. And what I learned from it was that I would never put myself in that situation again. Right. And so, when we talk about fitting in, we're so concerned with what everyone else is going to think of us. And in reality, if you just are who you were made to be, people are going to love you more.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And, like how you were talking about social media, I mean, people legitimately will rent $1 million houses, $1 million cars for like a half a day just to get images to post on social media. Like, it's crazy the things people will do to make you think that they have it all together, when in reality, they may struggle to look at themselves in the mirror. And to me, it's like, I've had to recognize, and this goes for everybody, is your weight's going to fluctuate. Your bank account's going to fluctuate. You're going to have moments in which you self-doubt. You're going to have moments in which, you question yourselves, moments in which you don't want to get out of bed. You have all of these different things. You have moments your bank account will fluctuate. Yet the number one thing that's not going to fluctuate is your worth. And that is why you need to understand, know your worth, and know that you don't have to fit in with anybody. If anything, fitting in, you get lost in the crowd, and not very many people are going to see you. Who do people always think the different one? The one that's not standing in with the crowd. What's going on with them? Why are they over there? What are they seeing that I'm not seeing? I'm always on the lookout for who's not in the crowd. Like, and maybe that's just like me just like being comfortable not fitting in. And like, I think there's also like people who are like myself, of like afraid of fitting in because we've experienced some hurt with fitting in. And like, I've had to have conversations even with my friend the other day, like, I never expected to be friends with such an incredible man who's a professional athlete and all of this. And it's just learning to become confident in who you are, confident in, the puzzle piece that you are, because sometimes we're trying to fit ourselves into a puzzle piece that doesn't fit, or we're trying to fit ourselves into a cookie cutter that isn't the right shape. So be your own cookie cutter, be your own trend, and just be confident with that.
And you're kind of taking us into the third reason, which is our lack of confidence. So those kind of go hand in hand.
Yeah.
And that lack of confidence is really one of the biggest reasons, I believe, on why people wear a mask. You don't believe in yourself. I will tell you, and whoever's listening to this or watching this, is that you were made to stand out. Like, you were not made to fit in. If you were made to fit in, then God would have created all of us equally. And that's one of the biggest things that I reiterate a lot of times, just because when I finally understood that I was different, I think different, and I do things a little different. And people say, hey man, you're different. Like, you think different. I do. And when I understood my differences as being something that stood out, and it defined who I was, like, I accepted, you know what, I am different, and it's okay. It is absolutely okay to be different, because it is those differences that is going to make me successful. When I actually see that my differences are going to be the things that help me stand out and gravitate those people who are supposed to be surrounded with my differences, you change. Your mindset starts to change. You start to accept yourself for who you are, and you start to believe in yourself, and understanding that, hey, when you're not crazy, it's not a bad thing to be different. And I think that's the biggest thing. And as we go through these things, it's like one is like leading into the other, in these reasons, but it's all in how we grew up, what people told us was different. Some of us were bullied, and so a lot of our differences were spoken about or harassed about. And it's perfectly fine to be who you are. Like, you were created to be you. And a lot of times we have a hard time understanding that what God made for me is for me, and what God made for you is for you. Maybe I wasn't supposed to become the millionaire. Maybe I'm not, but I'm perfectly content with the fact that I have a roof over my head. I got food on the table. I'm not lacking in any way. And those are blessings for me. I appreciate those things, and I'm so grateful for all of those things. But there's so many people who we see on social media that, like you said, Becca, rent houses and rent cars, and are just hurting inside, just hurting, because for them that makes people want to follow them. And how many followers am I getting? And who, I've got 6.2 million followers, which is fine. But those 6.2 million followers, like, how are they adding value to you in your life? Like, I want people to follow me who I am able to add value to, and in some way or another can add value into my life.
Absolutely 110%. I would rather be homeless and know my worth and love for myself than be a millionaire or have those likes or those comments or those follows or anything. I would rather love myself for who I am and knowing my worth than anything else, because I know that loving myself and having God within me and by my side, we're unstoppable. We might be in a really bad place, but you know what? I love myself. I know I deserve better than this shitty situation that I'm in. So be it, like, we're gonna figure it out, because God made me differently, and all the obstacles that I've already overcame, it's just proof that I can overcome the obstacle that I'm in. And also for me, looking back on my journey, I recognized, I grew up knowing that it was okay to be different. I was diagnosed in second or third grade with a learning disability, yet my parents never really called it a learning disability. They always called it a learning difference. And it wasn't until I was growing up later on that I recognized the word disability and then absolutely despise the word disability, because if you break it down, it means not able. And don't get me started on that rant, because I am able to do anything. That's where it comes, the confidence of like, don't tell me I can't do something when I can. I'm just going to do it differently. It may take me longer. I may be a little slower in it, but you know what? I'm okay with that, because it's going to work out the way that it's going to work out for me. And sometimes the slow turtle wins the race, For me, where the mask also really came on is going back. So I had the confidence, but the mask came on when I was hiding the pain, because I was told, you can't talk about this. If you tell anybody, not only are things going to get worse for you, but for your family. So it was kind of combining that two, in that scenario, because I was hurting. I had the belief that, I was okay being different, but then how do you gain the confidence to speak up about the pain that you're experiencing? And that's a hard one. That's where it comes into, we'll get into it more at the end, but like, just being able to save yourself and say, I'm sick and tired of being sick and tired.
That part.
So, I think we go on all of these for a long while, but let's get into the fourth one.
I just want to say something to that real quick. You and I were in a mindset program, and one of the exercises that we had to do was creating our alter ego, right? And so there are, like we talked about earlier, there are situations where you have to put on that mask, right? But it's not because you have to go into this alter ego to act like you're someone else. The alter ego is more so to give you the confidence to be able to go out there and be the person who you're intended to be, but still struggling with.
Exactly. It's like that party mask I was kind of saying on, like, party mask, alter ego, whichever rocks your boat. For me, alter ego. But no, it's totally true. You definitely are giving yourself that hype up and giving yourself, it kind of goes into number 4. You're turning the limited beliefs that you have within yourself into those positive affirmations. So number 4 is, limited beliefs in comparison. Sometimes we put on a mask because we don't believe in ourselves and we want to act like we got it all together, when really we don't know what the heck we're doing. Like, and it can just also lead down to the road of like, they know what they're doing. If I just try to do what they're doing, maybe I'll figure it out too. I've seen people, in even in my journey I've seen people try to fake my content, trying to take my words and use it within their own content. I'm like, I appreciate that like, it's cool to see, but I can see you're dying behind the scenes, and I'd rather you take off the mask and give your pain a voice than trying to be like me. Don't try to impress me with a fake mask. Take off the mask and give me your true authentic self, especially because people know that, like, I'm not going to judge you. If anything, I'm going to meet you at the pace at which you're at. But going back to those limited beliefs of, I can't do this, I can't do that. It's turning those limited beliefs into I cans. And I challenge everybody for a day, for a week. Every time you call yourself out on I can't, mark it down and tally it up at the end of the week and do some sort of reflection, or even tell yourself you have to go do something for somebody else or do something you don't want to do. Like, it's really an eye-opener all the times that we tell ourselves I can't. And even like you and I have a lot of confidence these days. There's still moments throughout my day of, I can't do this. And more or less then comes from like, I don't want to. Doesn't mean I can't. And there's a two totally different mindset and, emotion coming into that as well. But what do you got to say?
When I think about limited beliefs, I think a lot of times limited beliefs are caused by, when we're children and what we're told what we can and cannot do, or won't be able to achieve. A lot of times limited beliefs are put onto us because, we have family members who did not and were not able to achieve, their ultimate greatness, or, because I grew up in the environment I grew up in, you're going to grow up in the same environment and you're not going to get out of the neighborhood we're in. You're going to be here forever. Or even like for me, I was told growing up that, no one was going to care about my feelings. Like in this world, no one cares about your feelings. And so that was a big part as to why I internalized my feelings and did not share my feelings, because I had this thought that no one was going to care about how I felt, and so and in growing up and being heavy set, I've always been thick. It is what it is. Now I would never have said it is what it is, when I was younger, because it was such a big issue. Like, you're big boned, like, accept it for what it is and those kind of things. It's hard, especially when you get bullied at school, or, you're different, you stand out, right? And so I never could understand, why I did not accept myself for who I was until I was able to accept myself for who I was. And when I understood that I am able to voice my opinions and my thoughts and how I'm feeling, and accepting myself for who I was, especially with my, my body type, and understanding that I'm thick, like I carry a lot of muscle, and it's like, it's only going to go, I'm only going to get so thin, but I love who I am. Like I love where I am. I love, all of those things about myself, and anything that I don't like, then only I can do something about it. I'm the only person that can do anything to change any of those things. So if I truly have feelings and I want to voice them, I have every right to. If I have extra weight and I want to lose it, only I can do the work to lose it. And it's not an easy battle. It is not an easy battle. Do I want some fried chicken? Yes. Do I want some pizza? Yes. Because gluten-free, cauliflower crust, it's not the same. But am I okay not eating the pizza, knowing that I'm progressing, I'm achieving my goals, and I'm building more confidence in myself? Absolutely, because that outweighs that one pizza.
Absolutely. When you start seeing the results and you start gaining that confidence, it's almost as you become addicted to the journey and the results and all of that. Yet for me, when I was on my weight loss journey, for those who don't know, like you see me where I am now, but I was 80 plus pounds heavier just 3 years ago. And, for me, I didn't really learn the whole diet thing until I was on crutches and still crutching into the gym. But learning to meal prep in that time is really where I learned a lot and was still really able to get the results within that. And I think at the same time, for me, it was needing to learn. It's not that I can't have them, because I live by, like, I don't want to ever fully restrict myself from not having cookies for the rest of my life or not having ice cream. If you took ice cream away from me, like, I think I might have a mental health crisis. Like, your homegirl loves me some ice cream. Anyways, that being said, like, it's all in the matter of either moderation, having a little bit, not having a whole pint. I even, here's a story for you. I tried to cut down my ice cream intake, and I was trying to, get the mini small one size portions for like to have a day versus like going and trying to scoop out my own proportions. Well, yeah, the amount of cups that I got was for a week, and I ate all 7 cups in one sitting. So right there was my eye opener of, okay, well, this isn't going to work for me. So then it was learning like, okay, I can have, one day that's my total cheat day. Yet within that, let's still say I need to stay within 3,000 calories, because people will think like, oh, it's a cheat day, I can have whatever. But then they go to Burger King and have like, one meal is almost like 2,000 calories or whatever, and that's your one meal, and then you're having like ice cream and all of this. It's like, bro, you just ate enough for like 2 days. And no hate to anybody out there who, that's the life you want to live, like I hope you guys understand, like I'm all for like whatever you want for your life, and as long as you're happy and you're confident. And that, I just know for me personally, I know for you, Monica, like our health is important, and the results in which we want for our body means at times that we're going to sacrifice certain things so we can get the results in which we want,
Mm-hmm.
So that kind of went off of, limited beliefs and comparison, but, I think it's also important to talk about those types of things, because it does go into comparison when you see somebody go on their progress pictures on social media and you're thinking, oh, I want that. I can just act like I have it in. And, one of the reasons I do not do a lot of progress pictures or, all of that is because a lot of it is fake. A lot of people are putting on masks to show you a result. Do you know you can make a model in Photoshop from an image of a pizza? We had to do that as an assignment within my photography school. So people can Photoshop anything these days. People can Photoshop on abs. People can do a lot within all the effects and technology that we have these days. Yet a lot of people also can just suck it in really easily. So, like that's one reason I don't really do that stuff, because like I don't want to be fake, and I don't want anybody to compare that to. So, it's definitely a hard world to live in at times with how much comparison and limited beliefs that we tell ourselves. But
That is so true. And I'll tell you, like, even with my weight loss, I didn't notice. I mean, you see yourself every day. And I knew that my scale was decreasing and those kind of things. But because I hadn't taken pictures of myself in a while, you know what I mean? Up until I started my weight loss journey, and then I started to, notice my face thinning out, and then my clothes, I was getting into smaller sizes. So, I started to be more confident, taking more pictures of myself. But it wasn't until a friend of mine was like, yo, she took a full body picture of me and was like, yo, let me show you a picture from a year ago that I took of you. And I was like, what? Because I didn't have any full body pictures. I wouldn't I wouldn't take any of myself. And if anybody took pictures, it was like I'd crop it, that kind of stuff. And that's all part of being, fake. Right. And so when she showed me the picture from the year before, I was like, oh my God. Oh my God, which is when I posted that side by side back in November.
yeah.
And because I did not realize, one, that I had gotten that big. And then, of course, when I posted it and people that I worked with saw it, they're like, no way. Like, I don't remember you looking like that. And I said, I don't either.
Yeah.
And I don't ever want to remember looking like that again.
Looking like that, but I also think it's feeling like that, because that's the same with me. When I try to go back and look at pictures, because I'll be real, like I still take pictures. I'm just not one to post them on social media to be like, hey, look at me. Or like right now where I'm at, you know, I know for the past couple of weeks I've gained a little bit of weight. You know, I know that within myself, and I'm, you know, it's been me calling myself out. I called myself out to my homie yesterday and was like, keep me committed and eating again. Like and like getting back into the gym. And he was like, I got you. But, you know, I think it really is being able to look back on your journey and the progress that you have made. And like I was saying to him the other day, like where I'm at with my shoulder, because I think a lot of people don't recognize, like I'm still struggling with my shoulder in a lot of different ways. Like it is frozen. And, you know, he's said like, what has kept you going? Because he is somebody who was there at the very beginning, went to go live his dream. And like, he's seen me keep going, even when he wasn't there for me. He's like, what has always kept you going? And I said, I knew where we were. I remember us specifically being at the park, doing slam balls, doing kettlebells. You know, you were helping me get to a whole different level in which I was in love with. I could see, you know, my shoulders transforming, my arms getting the muscles that I freaking wanted. And like, I was so in love and excited for that journey that like, I was like willing to do anything. And then in an instant, everything changed and was put on lockdown because I had a tear and had to go through the surgery. And it was just knowing I was back there, I can get back there. And not only can I get back there, I can take it even further because I'm hungry for it. Like people are always like, oh, you're always hungry. I'm not just physically hungry. Like I work out a lot. So, you know, I'm going to refuel my body too. But like, I'm hungry for the results. Like, let's go. Let's do this. So just become hungry for your growth, not even just within your body, but become hungry for becoming a greater version of yourselves, which kind of takes us into number 5 in a way. You have to be the one to put in the work and not be afraid of constructive feedback and not wanting to change.
Yeah, and I think the biggest part of that is one, it's not just the receiving the constructive feedback from others, but being able to hold yourself accountable. And accepting that you are where you are because that's where you chose to be. Like you made decisions to get to that point. I couldn't be mad at anyone but myself for eating poorly, for not paying attention to my health and wellness, to all of those things. And once I started to understand that, you know, hey, it's nobody's fault but mine, right? And it's not going to change unless I put in the work to change it, right? And I think weight is one of those things that a lot of people don't talk about, like, you know, until it starts becoming a health issue, like a true health issue. That's when you really start talking to your family members about, hey, you know, like you really need to start, you know, focusing on your health and wellness, like you're starting to experience some sorts of health issues, is really when people really do talk about it. But other than that, no one will really tell you, hey, you're having an issue with your weight, especially if it's been something that you've dealt with your entire life. And my family definitely knew it was something that I dealt with my entire life, that they would never mention anything about my weight, right? And in a way, it was a good thing, but in a way, I kind of wish someone would have said, yo, bro, like you've gotten big, you know, and not in that way, but in a way to tell me, hey, like make me actually realize like, hey, you've gained a lot of weight. Like what's going on? What's happening? What's causing you to put on so much weight? Because I think at that point I would have really been able to get down to the core. And I was so depressed. I was going through anxiety. I was facing all of these mental illnesses that were causing me to overeat, eat poorly, and be stagnant, didn't move, didn't exercise. I mean, there was definitely a core issue that I was covering it up with my food, and my food was my go-to. And when I started making the healthy choices, and like earlier when I talked about I have to decide whether I want the pizza or if I want, reach my goal, part of that is because I know that I had an issue with food. And it's one of those fears that if I do go start eating, even on a cheat day, eating pizza, that I'm going to enjoy it so much. It's going to bring back these feelings and this gratification. And I'm just going to I yearn for all of those bad foods again. And so for me, not eating the pizza is what's going to keep me going towards my goals. And at the same time, like, I'm trying to mentally prepare myself, because there is going to come a time where I am going to be able, and I will eat the pizza, but I want to be so mentally prepared that it'll be like just the one meal and right back on track. And I'm not there mentally yet because I love pizza, you know? So, and again, it's one of those things you try to offset. I've tried the cauliflower crust and I've tried the gluten-free, and it's not the same for me. So I don't try either because it makes me want that original pizza. And it's just knowing, all of this just kind of ties in together, right? It ties in together with why am I wearing this mask? I don't like the way I look. I don't like the way I feel. I'm dealing with depression. And then I'm trying to fit in. So I'm going to act like I'm okay. And in reality, it's like everything inside of you, your confidence level is going down. You're too scared to be real. And then you're afraid to own up and take accountability for where you are. And when you start there and you're able to take accountability for you are where you are because that's where you've chosen to be, your actions have put you in the situation that you're currently in. What can you do to change it so that you internally know that you're doing everything you can and remain authentically you? Be real 100% with who you are. Like, this is me. And when you actually reach like that level of peace, even through healing and transformation, when you've reached that level of peace, it's not like you turn into this cold-hearted person and you just say what's on your mind. No, like you still remain humble and you accept that your progress has gotten to a level that you're proud of, and you're not afraid to speak on the things that could potentially help someone else.
Absolutely. Absolutely. One of the things that came up as you were talking for me, and it goes into the afraid to receive, but also afraid to give constructive feedback. And I feel like too often than not, people are afraid to give constructive feedback because they fear hurting somebody else's feelings. And these days, honestly, I live to be picked apart. Like, I want to know where people think I need to grow. I want to know people's real and raw authentic selves. Now, when it comes down to that, am I going to listen to Joe Schmo who came from middle of nowhere to tell me how I need to improve? Frick no. I'm going to listen to Monica. I'm going to listen to my family. I'm going to listen to people who have been with me climbing the mountain to where, I'm going and all of that, because they're the ones who truly know me. They're the ones that are behind the screen supporting me in my daily life. And I'm not going to listen to somebody who doesn't necessarily, know me. That doesn't mean I'm not going to, I'm just going to like push it off and push it under the rug. No, I'll still listen. But if it's something I don't agree with, if it's something that, I don't think I need to change, no, I'm not. Like, I know my truth and I know, where I want to go. So I'm really going to value the people who are telling me the constructive feedback. And I know it's hard to receive that constructive feedback. I went to school for photography, right? And I had one professor in which he was the greatest professor in the way of giving constructive feedback. He gave that tough love. He was a bubbly, outgoing professor. Yet when it came to the constructive feedback, I had one assignment where I was legitimately confident. You know, I was wearing the mask of confident because I felt confident, like I had it. And I put it up on the wall with everybody else. He picked my picture off the wall. Here I am having a party in my head. He loves it because he was very hard to impress. He pulled it off and ripped it up in front of me because it needed work, and it needed a lot of work. And he taped it back together to say, here's what you need to do to make the assignment better. Did it hurt to see a picture that I took time in the studio to put together and all of that? Absolutely. But it gave me the opportunity to go back and improve in areas that I was weak on and come back at him and hand him a picture in which he loved. So you have to be able to be willing to hear feedback and receive feedback in order for you to grow. We all need it, you know? And today I feel like I experience, you know, a lot of those people just wanting to tell me, you know, you're doing great, because they're afraid to hurt my feelings. And I'm like, no, pick me apart. I don't think you realize, like, even if you say something negative to me, like, I know that most people come from a kind-hearted place, and I'm not gonna throw hate back. If anything, people know I throw love back. Yet I want to hear what you think of me. I want to hear how you can grow. And it drives me crazy when it's just like, oh, you're good, you're good, you're good. And I'm like, no, like, I don't think you understand. Like, I'm trying to figure out, like, don't put me in this perfect world, because I'm not perfect. I'm still trying to figure things out. Like, people look and say, like, oh, you have 23K. You know exactly what you're doing on social media. And I'm over here like, I don't know what the heck I'm doing. Like, I straight up don't, because I was thrown into this world of being a social media influencer to now the point where I'm like, niche. Okay, what's my niche? I'm my niche. Like, okay, this is like, I'm a mental health advocate and now an entrepreneur. You know, I'm trying to figure it out in the journey, but, you know, like, as I'm like beginning to watch other people's content and learn things, like, if you're going to say you're a mental health advocate and that's your niche, then you need to be posting content on mental health. Like, you know, so like, I'm still trying to figure that out. But as I'm figuring that out, you know, it's just interesting to watch other people and their journeys with it all too. So just be open to constructive feedback and getting that tough love, because like Monica said, you're the one putting the food in your mouth. You're the one putting in the reps in the gym, and you're the one who can only save your life. Point blank, period. And the thing I love about fitness in particular with this is that fitness isn't going to lie. You jump onto that scale and you said, oh, I've had salads all week, I've been really good, whatnot. The scale is going to show it or not, whether you like it or not. And two things could occur. You're lying in what you ate, you know, or maybe you had too many snacks here and in between, or you need to reprogram and re-game plan what you're doing in the gym and outside of the gym, you know. And that's one reason I love fitness, is because it does not lie. But just like fitness, you can't lie to yourself. You can't continuously wear this mask and say, I'm good, I'm fine, I want to fit in with all these people. No, take off the mask and be your real and raw, true, authentic self. And you will find that that is freeing. So do it because you deserve it.
Yes, 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 yes to all of that. It was like mic drop after mic drop after mic drop. But I will tell you, there is one of your stories that I thought of while you were talking. When you started talking about, you have to be mentally prepared and smart about who's giving you the feedback, right? Who's giving you the feedback and what their intent is. And is it changing who you are? Because if it's changing who you are, you have to be able to say, I appreciate you giving me that advice, and it's up to me to decide to take it or not. Right. And so the story that I thought about of you was the one where I think you were trying to do something and they told you you needed to wear makeup.
So context real quick. I got on a entrepreneurship call to get a potential pretty big business opportunity, and they were going to take me in the route in which I wanted to take my life. And at the very end, they said, but you're going to have to put on some makeup and wear certain things. And I said, no.
Yeah. And that's a big step, because when you allow someone to persuade you or convince you into doing things that you're not comfortable doing, or even that doesn't portray who you are, then you have to learn to put your foot down and say, hey, this isn't who I am. This isn't what I do, you know? Um, and that's the thing. Wherever you work, those kind of things. In some places you have uniforms, in some places you don't. You actually wear clothing that, like for me, I work in a professional setting, so it's casual professional dress. Like I can't show up in my tennis shoes and my hoodie, you know, and think that it's acceptable. Like I have to be able to understand that I still have to be able to wear what I need to wear for work. And that's not considered fitting in. That's considered doing my job, following policies and procedures. So, I don't want people to get confused, especially when we talk about, you know, making sure that we're doing the right thing, get based off of the situation that we're in or the circumstances that we're in, because there are instances where you do have to follow policies and procedures when it comes to your work or when it comes to certain social events. Like if it's a gala and it's a formal gala, like you can't show up in your hoodie and tennis shoes, you know, as much as it is you being authentically you. Um, and
But I
so
want to stand out, Monica. I don't want to fit in with the crowd.
then you wear like some Doc Martens, or you wear some Chuck Taylors, you know what I mean? With
You
your
can add your own twist and your style
yes,
within what it
yes.
like.
That's the
Yeah.
part. That's the part. So finding ways to actually still be able to be yourself, but partake in the event that you're in. So I definitely want to make sure that we address all of that, because it's not just, I'm going to be who I am, and this is that it doesn't always work that way. Now, if you want to become an entrepreneur, set your own schedule, not work at 9 to 5, follow somebody else's policies and procedures, then you're all the way 100% have the ability to wear what you want, when you want, and how you want it, and say what you want and when you want it.
Yeah. And I
Right.
think too, with where I'm at in my journey, just to share something that I feel like is important too, especially with what the story I just told, is that so often people are going to see the greatness and light that is inside of you before you could see it yourself, right? And that is something that I've been experiencing a lot recently. And not only do you have to know the standards and principles in which you want to live, but you have to trust your gut and your intuition. If you feel like something's off, do not ignore that. It's off for a reason. And you might not be able to understand it in the moment, yet there's a reason it's there. And I bet you're going to look back and you're going to say, "Oh, okay. That's why I said no," or put it on a pause. As a lot of people know, my first draft of my book is complete. Like, and that's a big step for me. And I've had a lot of people, reach out to me wanting to do publishing, wanting to do this, and like I've just had to say it's on it's on a slight pause right now. It's right where it needs to be, and I'm still going to take the steps in which I need to do it, but I'm not going to rush the process for a lot of different reasons. I want it to get to the point in which I want the book in the hands of the people who need the book. And I would rather go on a slower process than speed this up and have potentially people coming at me, changing who I am, or rushing the process and it not going the way I want. Because people will see the greatness inside of you. They'll want to swoop you up with a good deal. And then throughout that, maybe they're influencing in a way in which you don't like, but you signed a contract or you signed something and you're stuck. And those are sometimes the things that you have to think about. And that's where this whole, like, we won't even get into here today because we need to already run this down, but like the whole new levels, new devils, and trying to think about those things and really just slowing the process down and enjoying the moment of where you are at within your journey. So just know your standards and, you know, again, love who you are, man. You can take off that mask and love every freckle, every smile, every... Why are you giving me that look?
Because I got freckles.
Well, I love your freckles. You should love your freckles. You know what?
I got a funny story about my freckles though, but you know, I'm gonna say the story about my freckles, and then I wanna leave us with not a famous, but it's a famous quote for me because it's one of Trent Shelton's quotes that I got to hear live from him. But let me tell you a funny story about my freckles. So while we were at the EYA conference, right? Of course, you know, we've all going through this whole breakthrough. We're all crying, you know, that kind of stuff. And Christine comes over to me and she's like, "You've got mascara on your face." Right. And I was like, and I'm trying to wipe and she's like, "It's still there. It's still there." And so, you know, I said, "Well, get it off," you know? So she's trying to get it off and she's like, "It's not coming off." And I was like, "Well, let me go to the restroom." Right. And I get really close to the mirror and I was like, "That's a freckle."
I'm so blessed to call those two hooligans my best friends.
Oh my God. We laughed so hard. I text her because, you know, the conference had started back up. And I text her, and I mean, she literally looked at the text and just busted out laughing. But yeah, that I just had to throw that in there about my little freckle story. But one of the things that you made me think of is, you know, really just understanding yourself and those kind of things. So I want to leave us with this one thing that I had the opportunity to hear Trent say at the EYA conference, and it resonated with me. And I hope it resonates with somebody who's listening or watching this. And what he said was, while you're so busy looking for the light at the end of the tunnel, you're that light.
Facts. Facts. So see that light. See that light of greatness that is within you right now. And go be the light. Go be the light for somebody else. I believe in you. Believe in yourself. Sorry, we have some technology challenges going on right
now. You thought I was gone. You're like, "Oh no, she's gone."
No, you're right there.
So you could see me.
I can see you the whole time.
And my computer was, yeah, I couldn't see anything. It was almost like I thought it was about to turn off. But yeah, definitely. I just wanted to drop that and just, you know, have people just really think about that, is that while we're so busy looking for the light at the end of the tunnel, you are that light. You know what I mean? So.
And here we are being our real raw authentic selves. I was like, here I am in my head thinking, like, do we put on this mask and edit this moment right here?
Nope.
And I'm like, no. We live by staying true and authentic to who we are. So we're keeping that moment in. It was a struggle because I was like, she's moving in a really weird direction, and I'm telling people to see their light, but I'm also watching my best friend weirdly move, and I'm trying not to laugh as I'm giving like a oh, that was hard, guys. I really do see the light in you. I do believe in you, and I want you to see that same light within yourself and to be the light for somebody else. So you can do it. Take off the mask, own yourself, love yourself, continue to be the resilient warrior that you are within this game of life. But no matter what, stay strong, stay you, because you got this.
Peace.
Peace.